you're gonna treat me right. No, we don't really know where we're going, but we still wanna see you wanna find it. So you're gonna treat me right. So you're gonna treat me right. So you're gonna treat me right. No, we don't really know where we're going, but we still wanna see you wanna find it. So you're gonna treat me right. No, we don't really know where we're going, but we still wanna see you wanna find it. So you're gonna treat me right. So you're gonna treat me right. No, we don't really know where we're going, but we still wanna see you wanna find it. So you're gonna treat me right. So you're gonna treat me right. And maybe I don't want your love. And maybe, and maybe, and maybe, and maybe.
Don't have to wait, you know my name. Sunshine and rain, some things don't change. Thinking about the days we were young, girl. Innocent in our ways, we were dumb, girl. When nothing really mattered, I could always count on you. We were young, girl. The touch will leave me breathless, so let me give it back to you.
And maybe I don't want your love. And maybe I don't want your love. And maybe,
Oh my, you're my broken love. You're my broken.
and maybe I don't want your love. And maybe I don't want your love. And maybe,
Oh my, you're my broken love. You're my broken.
and maybe I don't want your love.
Are we on? All right, I think it's time we get the show on the road. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I'm gonna go call the people by the food. Definitely the smartest people here. Could everybody buy the food please move expeditiously to the chairs? I heard the word expeditiously on a movie and I've been waiting to use it. Move expeditiously. I was like, whoa! The day I drop it, it's gonna be over. All right, there we go. You buy the beverages. I like that. Wet your beaks and head on over here. Does no one want to be in Golden Circle? Oh no, all the panelists are sitting in the back. They want like a little walk-up thing, they want to show us they're smart. So if anybody wants to get themselves a better seat, I do have no seats in the front because now there's stuff here. So sorry, I was lying to you. There, take a seat. That man's getting himself some grapes. He's going to have to let us know what the grapes were like in that year of the wine. Was it a rainy season? Were the grapes good? They take a seat. Is everyone down? Okay, great. Firstly, can everyone hear me? Just so we didn't do sound check. You got a thumbs up at the back. Great. Welcome to Hyde Park Exclusive Books. My name is Anel Mdoda, and I'm going to be your host for easily the most anticipated book of the year. I am somebody who is so afraid of anything tech-wise, technology. I get dribbled by my WhatsApp sometimes. I'm just like, whoa, I thought we were friends. Why are you the enemy now? And so when it comes to this, and I was asked to host this, this book launch, and I had to read the book, and I was just like, I actually know a lot. I'm like, I'm not doing too bad. But also, the book just opened up so many other rooms in the house that is my mind that I wasn't even anticipating. And I think that's why we're all here today. Well, actually, the reason we're all here today is because you want to find out, right? Are you going to lose your job to AI? Yeah. No, be honest. Give me that's why you're here. That's why you're here. So I took the liberty of asking, who's this one? ChatGPT. That one is the AI of AI, right? So I asked it this morning, is Anel Mdoda going to lose her job to AI? And this was the answer. No, start it again. From the beginning, loud as you can. Okay, go.
Handle the boring stuff like playing songs and reading the weather. But when it comes to Anel Mdoda's electric personality and knack for turning a mundane Monday into a laugh fest, it's like comparing a robot vacuum to a disco ball. Anel's wit, charm, and storytelling could make even a toaster feel emotions, something no AI could ever replicate without overheating.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm here. Because AI is not hosting this. Anel Mdoda is. Good evening. All right, let me get the first panel out here. We'll do this like this because we're going to make it really quick so that we can mingle and we can have discussions and we can buy the book. Mark is going to be, Dr. Mark. Hey. Dr. Mark is going to be here. You can buy the book. He'll sign it for you. You can engage. I know a few of the guests have been DMing me on Instagram saying, I have this question for him and that question. I was like, just make your way down here and buy the book. So we're going to do it quickly. We're going to have 2 sets of panels, 3 each on the stage. We'll ask them a few questions. At any time, if you feel like you want to partake and ask a question, I know you can just put your hand up. We'll get a microphone to you, and then you can ask a question. And then I want to say hello to everybody joining us on LinkedIn. There are 5 signed copies that we're going to give away today. 3 will go to the crowd that's here because they braved the cold to be here. The guys on LinkedIn, I'll make sure that you get 2 books. Just make sure that you're asking, commenting, anything that is engaging on the LinkedIn stream. That's how you're going to grab your 2 books. All right, let's get the show on the road. First up, please can I get Walter Adao on stage? He operates in the intersect of strategic and innovative thinking, exponential technologies, and rapid value creation. With a rich background in venturing and innovation, he guides organizations beyond potential disruption towards creating and activating new opportunities for relevance and growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause. And then to Madame Phokeng Mokgase. Phokeng Mokgase is a seasoned IT professional with over 20 years experience in the ICT industry, spanning across both public and private sector. She is the 2022 Visionary CIO Awards finalist and has established herself as an IT business leader and a digital strategist focusing on converting traditional business to digital businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Mokgase. And she comes with a lot of fans, I see. Like, as you walk, excuse us, Beyonce. Hey. Look, I was just like, I also like your little show thing, but. And the final person who's going to join us with this panel, please give it up for Ashley Anthony, is entrepreneur, a thought leader in practical applications for AI and optimization with a foundation in physics and mathematics. Ashley co-founded Isazi AI in 2012. This man has been making money from AI since 2012. Get up here, you futuristic person, you. In fact, I'm going to throw your bio away. Who cares? You've been here since 2012. We were still having a hangover from the Soccer World Cup, and you were like, hey, while stay sleeping, let me get on this. Speaking of 2010, Madam Mukhasa, I'm going to start with you. Are we all, because remember in 2010, we all opened B&Bs, because, you know, we were all going to become billionaires, because we had these, you moved out your house and you turned it to a B&B because the Mexicans were going to come live in your house. And that's how you're going to make money. Like 2010 B&Bs, AI, are we all going to become stinking rich from it?
You know, it's like asking the question, you know how often we say, you know, when I win the lotto, this and that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but you must first bet. All right. So it's really up to you. You can get wealthy from it, but find the opportunity, create the value, and be like Ashley over here.
He's paying for the drinks tonight. He just doesn't know it yet. Staying with you then, Pukeng, you know, there has been a lot of hype around AI and a lot of discussions around it. A book like this that Dr. Mark has written, is it adding to the hype? Is it adding to the hysteria? You know, do you co-sign something like this from him?
You know, I wish I could have gone to AI and asked AI, is a book like this a hype or whatever? But on a serious note, the reality is when you understand the impact of AI to society, to our lives, careers, you won't be surprised about the hype. Is the book adding to the hype? Firstly, what I'll say, hype, it is necessary. But like Gardner would talk about that hype cycle, there's a point where we all part of the hype, we're interested, we want to know about it. Then there's a disillusionment when reality strikes in. And for me, Mark, this is where your book comes in. When we understand the value that we can derive from AI and we really understand the impact of it. I looked at the book and what I found is that it offers practical guidelines for adoption. It advocates for a strategy-led implementation. It advocates, it's the first, you know, when you read AI books, it's often about the technology. And this book, it's about the technology, the leadership, the education. So for me, what I particularly enjoyed about the book is that it, you know, I joked with him to say, I do think when we consider frameworks for implementing AI, first step is giving everybody Mark's book to read, just to educate them about the implications of it. If I could also just add a last point here, is that after reading it, it places a lot of responsibility on leaders and the decision that they make. So I dare say that it's pushing us to be more human. AI is trying to mimic our behavior, but indirectly pushing us to be more human. And I'm going to have to unpack that, right? What I mean by it is that we are now forced as technology leaders to actually stop. It's not about the technology, it's about what you want to do about the technology, what impact it's going to have. Remember, it can do great things. I mean, cyber criminals are using AI. So this ethical considerations come in. The impact, what do you want to use it for? Pukeng, if it's something that you're adopting for your organization, we already have above 30% unemployment rate in South Africa. Are you bringing it to create more unemployment? If you do want to bring efficiencies, what are you going to do about the staff that you have in your pipeline? What skilling, reskilling, upskilling strategies do you have ethically I mean, I work for a regulator, although my contributions today don't represent the views of the FSCA. For those that are in the financial sector,
Oh,
hello.
this is like when the advert plays for the political party. Then right afterwards, they're like, this advert was paid for by the political party. You just heard. We had nothing to do with it.
So I have to put it out there. We've got a dual responsibility. We've got a responsibility. So somebody like me looks at it from how can we bring more efficiencies for the organization? How can we improve customer experience and stuff like that? But we've got an added responsibility to promote innovation and not stand in the way of innovation. But we've got to propel you to do it responsibly. All right, so the ethical aspects of it, it's something that would weigh heavy on us in that, you know, we have to drink our own champagne and really model the kind of behavior that we want to see in environments out there.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to come back to you because later on I'm going to unpack the entire, you know, is AI creating jobs or is it taking away jobs? And it's what I'm going to say to Walter, but I want you to hang 10. I want to come to Mr. 2012 over here. Okay, Ash. It's Ashley. Can I call you Ash? Okay. So what I liked what Bukeng said about the book is that as much as it speaks to the technology and the ideologies around it, but there are a lot of like plain sight examples, right? I'll give you an example that I liked. Walgreens is it's a restaurant in the States. I know it to be in the USA only. It's much like Kauai down here, where it's like healthy food and then they make like ginger shots, turmeric shots and all of that. Now, Walgreens uses AI to track prescriptions that are being processed by pharmacies across America to check what people are currently under the weather over, so they know to up their vitamin C shots, up their turmeric shots in certain regions. Now that is using AI. Now that's a practical example, okay? That's the one that I'm touching on. Please, can you give us more example of how AI can be used by Africa to enhance retail?
So that's actually a great example of Walgreens doing that. If you just think about, if you had to try and do that on Excel, the total number of simulations to run that data, to figure out what you should make, how much of ingredients need to be sent down, and detailing and understanding that supply chain would almost be impossible for a human to do. So now with the power of machines, machine learning and AI, this can be modeled and done very well. But however, there is a challenge with taking a model built in the US. Different total number of population, it's a banked population, it's a health conscious population.
So banked population?
Banked, meaning majority of their population is actually banked.
Okay.
Right? In Africa, that's not the case across.
Okay.
There also, if you look at just FMCG or fast-moving consumer goods, the way their stores are distributed is in a very corporatized way. Where else you come down to Africa, there's something very, very different that we don't see almost anywhere else in the world in FMCG, is this idea of what we call in South Africa a spaza shop, but retitled in different places. And this micro way of providing products to people is something that's very unique to Africa. So where the opportunity, I think, sits is if we just take the current population of Africa at 1.2 billion and intended to grow by 2030 to 1.7 billion people. This is a very, very specific supply chain problem. So I think what Mark does highlight in his book is about Africa really creating our own solutions, because these solutions that are made in the West aren't necessarily going to apply and solve our problems. So I think that's probably our biggest opportunity.
I'm so glad you raised that, because in the book as well, I'm not going to give the entire book away, trust me. In the book as well, you know how it ends. We all end up here. Buying the book. But in the book as well, Mark speaks about Amazon and that 35% of the product spent on Amazon is by recommendation, right? Which is a definitely AI, right? Now, I want, like, how do you scale that to Africa, right? Because like you're saying, you know, if we're using just American solutions, US solutions, it's going to fail on this side.
No, 100%. I think the first step is when it comes to recommender engines, they're highly dependent on the data you feed it. Okay, so for example, somebody watching Netflix in America would have a different taste of movies. All of us in this audience, when you switch on your Netflix, the choices that come up are aligned to you. That's a recommendation engine in a simpler form, right? That's specialized to you. And it's because the data of you, your family, your kids that watch it, that algorithm is trained for you. How we bring it here in Africa is, one, we have a very, very rich and wide range of data sets. Secondly, the world is now, we have access to all the models. You spoke about ChatGPT 4. I think the last time I checked, all open source models run about 8 months behind the paid for models. So what does this mean with access to cloud? It means all companies of all sizes and individuals could probably run a data center as big as some of the corporates and have access to these models to model it on different data. So bringing it down to Africa is, I think all companies should probably start focusing on their bottom line. Don't treat AI like a pet IT project. We see this a lot where executives feel, let me just invest X amount, and if it solves this problem, it sorts out 5% of my organization. You've probably missed the boat and are going to. You need to apply this in a thinking mechanism that says, how does this impact 80% of the revenue made or profits made in my business?
I like that, because now you're touching on companies, because we've spoken about it on a continental level, and now we're speaking straight to the strategy of companies. Walter, this is where you come in. Apparently you're the strategist amongst us. You like the think tank. If you don't think, this tanks, okay? So he's touched on, and I'm pretty sure we've got people who make huge decisions in their companies right now, and that's why they're here tonight. He's touched on, if you're gonna treat AI like it's something, that's by the by on the agenda, and not treat AI like something that should be incorporated in every bullet point form of what your company is talking about at these high level meetings, you're gonna fail. So as a strategist, how are you making sure that companies, when they call you in like, hey, AI guy, come AI us, what do you walk in and do?
So perhaps a starting point is, if you've been in your organization...
Can you please get your microphone close up to me? We've got people at the back.
If you've been in the organization and you hear the following conversation, we need to find a way to bring AI into our business, or that team is working on AI. I'll give you free advice, that project's going to fail. That initiative's going to fail. AI can't be seen as something separate from the strategy of the business. So you don't need an AI strategy, you've got a strategy already. The role that AI needs to play is to catalyze and accelerate the strategy. So what are the key elements of a strategy? Or what would be the key elements or the key dividends of a technology like AI? You probably can categorize it into 3 broad dividends. You're going to use it to generate value, you're going to use it to reduce cost in the business, or you're going to use it to fundamentally change the relationship you have with your customers. Now, what does your strategy want? Do you want to increase the relationship with your customer, or do you want to reduce the cost of doing business, or do you want to find new initiatives to drive revenue? The deployment of AI and any other technology inside an organization needs to be defined by the strategy of the organization. If it's seen as a separate project on its own, it's not going to be successful. You'll spend the money, you'll invest the resources, and you'll get no ROI. And as Ashley points out, this can't be an experiment where we're just going to do it, so we're doing it. It's either you're committed to your strategy or you're not. And if you're not using AI and other technologies to unlock that productivity, you're falling behind. I think that's a critical thing. So you mentioned the concern around jobs. I think business leaders, there's an ethical responsibility business leaders have, and it's to manage and lead a productive and profitable company that contributes to the economy and sustains jobs.
But when you list on, as your second point, reducing the costs, the operational cost of your business, the normal person like me hears fire people so that you can bring a few robots in here and then they can do everything.
And that's spot on. And that's where the hype is. So a lot of the hype we're reading about AI, job losses, etc., is incredibly unbalanced. It's one-sided. Either we're going to eliminate a job and we identify one job with specific attributes, or the counterbalance is that, we're going to create so many jobs and demand is higher than supply, so we're going to create a lot of jobs. Both sides are not necessarily incorrect, but they're not balanced. When we talk about reducing costs, you could reduce costs by unlocking efficiencies. So think of a program manager that's using an AI tool to run projects more efficiently. I still need the program manager, but now the program manager is more competitive. So in many instances, AI is going to be the competent but naive assistant that augments the human.
So what you're saying is AI is going to help me do my job quicker. So if I was bad at doing my job quicker, I'm just going to be bad quicker. So I'm going to get fired quicker. That's what's going to happen here. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That is it's a good illogical response, right? But essentially, think of a radiologist.
Okay.
All right, you're going to have two radiologists. One that refuses to move and still tries and interpret images with the eye and with experience, etc. And then you've got a radiologist that embraces and understands AI and uses the AI to identify cancer cells a lot more accurate and with a lot less evidence of cancer to trigger the right treatment quicker. Okay. Right? So the need for the radiologist is still there. But over time, the radiologist that is not efficient and productive and with the right outcomes is going to be the one that loses their job.
Okay, you said what I said in a better way. I can see why you're you. Okay, to wrap it up, I want to get the next panel in here. To wrap it up, and we can start from this side and we can go all the way down. Naturally, you guys are, very smart, and this is why you're here to speak to Dr. Mark's book. I want you to give me a personal anecdote why you believe in this book outside of a professional place, on just a personal how you feel if you had to be talking to your friend as you drive home. Personally, why do you recommend this book?
So I think it's towards the end of the book. Mark pointed out a way of saying this, which I think is critical. And he said, because right now everything is about jobs, and we're mixing things that are ethical with job loss. I think that's not the definition of ethical. And show me a CEO whose mandate is to create more jobs on his bottom line or on his balance sheet. It's not practical. And we can't keep fighting with business about all this, because somebody's going to eat their lunch. Somebody's going to deliver it at a better cost and a better quality. And Mark said in his book that those people who think AI is all about taking jobs is actually people with a limited imagination. And we should be pushing that narrative. Because the more people talk about it on platforms that AI is all about taking jobs, it's actually it's a limited mindset. It's taking things that are things people are doing repetitively, which are naturally not great for humans. It's taking things, it does certain things better, not all the stuff better, and it's allowing companies to be more efficient. The more what drives employment in countries? It's successful businesses. Because all those people work for successful businesses. So if we could automate and create more profits, it allows business to expand more. It creates more of a competitor environment. And more smaller companies can create more jobs and compete with the bigger guys. And the one thing also that we have is it drops the borders now. Now we can do business. COVID showed us we can do business with the world. From here. So I think the highlight for me that would always be a conversation point with anybody I meet is just let's stop branding this as the thing that's taking people's jobs, so that's it from me.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay.
Okay. Ashley, I agree with you, right? And I also agree with you about we already have the strategies. But I think there is an intentional space that you have to create in the organization to have a conversation about AI, because there's a lot of anxiety that it brings. There's a lot of expectations that it brings. I had a colleague who approached me to say, Puking, what are we doing about AI? And I said, what do you want to do about it? And said, I don't know, everybody's talking about it. All right, but whether we like it or not, that space we need to create. Particularly what I like about your book, Mark, is you are practicalizing adoption of AI not only for tech leaders, but for any leader, period. Often in organizations, depending on your maturity levels, obviously with adoption, it's something that's left to IT. IT will come and tell us what to do about it. We'll just tag along. And truly speaking, this is a leadership imperative. The efficiencies that it can bring are big and wide. The two other aspects that I like is the section where you spoke about the change element of it. Just how drastic the change is and how much you have to focus on that, not just the technology, the people aspect as well, take them with. And lastly, what I really liked, and I want to go read it again, is that section about decision intelligence. You spoke about decision fatigue. Leaders, I mean, this whole AI and all its atrocities that it can create is left to the eyes of the leader. So much is expected from this leader. Nobody asks, do you know about it enough to, But that decision intelligence aspect, I work for an organization whose decisions have such rippling effect that our focus on just that application would be so crucial. Any decision we make can be sensationalized. So that's an aspect, and I know it requires some high-level maturity, but it requires us to understand it deeper intrinsically and be quite strategic and intentional about it. So that, I'm taking it with. I'm a black person.
Are you going to say final point for the third time?
No. So let me tell you what I'm going to say. I'm obviously black. There's a last point and there's a last. So I'm on the last. I'm so happy to see the turn up here. In here, we've got people from government, private sector, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got students, and Mark, you did that. So what this is telling me, truly, if we are to create that African identity for AI, it needs the collaboration of this pool. I want to have a conversation to see how we can invite you to my world around the collaboration. And when Mark calls you guys, you better respond, okay? Because this is a movement that he's starting, and I want us to really congratulate him for that.
So perhaps my perspective, what Mark writes about is not theory. He's made the mistakes, he's had the realizations, and we've had many conversations where you'll say, I need to talk to you about something I've just learned off the back of a project. Right? Those conversations are typically held over a phone call, over a cup of coffee. He's made those conversations available to you. What you see in the book is real. It's practical. That matters, Mark. And thank you for sharing those insights. There's not enough books that share those insights. Number two, you made it about the practicality of living and doing business in South Africa and Africa. Our challenges are different. We can take developed market research and ideology, etc. But when we deploy it in our region, we have got to take the context of our region into account. That matters. And then the third thing that, to me, your practical examples have got an undertone, which is the conversation we need to be having. We're getting caught up in which project and employment, etc. But the undertone is productivity.
Yeah.
And if you take that term productivity, productivity leads to growth, economic growth. Economic growth leads to jobs, right? And that's true for a country, that's true for a company. Now, over the last couple of years, the biggest value unlocks in productivity have been exponential technologies. AI is going to do that at a magnitude higher. And if you give me a few seconds, I want to share an interesting data point that speaks to productivity. There's a database in the US, and unfortunately this research is only limited to the US. They've categorized 1,000 jobs for the last 20, 30 years. They update those jobs with the tasks that those jobs need to fulfill. Researchers took that database and overlaid it with OpenAI's capabilities. And the question was, which jobs and tasks are exposed to AI? The result was 80% of US workers' jobs, 80% of US workers, 10% of their jobs were exposed to AI. 20% had 50% of their tasks exposed to AI. The focus is exposed, not replaced. And it comes back to that conversation that I mentioned earlier, that it's going to make an engineer a better engineer. It's going to make a radiologist a better radiologist, a project manager a better project manager. It unlocks productivity, right? So the people in this room, the risk is not, is it going to take our job away? The risk is, are you going to be casual about your continuous learning to be able to use the tool to remain relevant in your role? And then with regards to bringing that concept from the professional construct into the challenge we've got around unemployment, what this technology does, it allows an interface between the formal economy and the informal economy. There's elements of the informal economy that companies just don't service. It's not practical, it's not profitable. But if you use a platform like this to interface into the informal economy, you create trust, reliability, and predictability. I can now deliver with predictability and trust last meter into low-income areas. I can invite communities into agricultural projects in the formal sector. I can we can create financial products, lending products, etc., that drives entrepreneurship. So I think the theme of productivity in Mark's book is so clear in terms of its application for Africa. We've got to read all those chapters in detail, and it comes to life. It becomes real and practical.
All right, round of applause. Thank you so much, Walter. Thank you for Gang, and thank you so much, Ashley. Right, Professor Vukosi, where are you? Move towards me, please. He's an associate professor at the University of Pretoria and holds the ABSA UP chair at Data Science. He specializes in machine learning and artificial intelligence, focusing on natural language processing and local or low resource languages. As leader of the Data Science for Social Impact Group, he works on projects in various, in various sectors like energy and public safety. He co-founded Lilapa AI, and AI started focusing on AI for Africans, co-founded by the Masakane NLP Research Foundation. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Kim Possible. Kim Hewlett founded the Next Biosciences, a biotech company involved mainly in stem cells and genetics across the reproductive and longevity health sectors. She's also invested in Wild Earth, which is the largest safari vehicle in the world, by broadcasting live sunrise and sunset safaris every day from the African bush. Together with Mark and other panel members, Kim is a faculty member of Singularity University. Kim, please step into my office. And then Meg is Mick Mann, CEO of AfriRare, co-CEO of Singularity University South Africa. And Man-Made is a storyteller, a futurist, an entrepreneur, investor, speaker on how exponential technologies can help to #future-proof Africa. After completing his honors degree in scriptwriting, directing, and producing film at AFDA, Mick joined as a co-owner of the family business, Man-Made. Mick has 24 years of experience in the media, as well as marketing, inventing industry, also doing 360 marketing and sales campaigns for many global and local Fortune 500 companies. Mick, please get off your phone and step on the stage. Y'all are very achieved, eh? Woo! Got parts just reading everything there. Okay, so who do I want to start with? Because now my mind is buzzing here because I was reading things, but let me start with you, Mick. I mean, you stress that, to be fair, there's nothing to be scared of when it comes to AI, because it's just a collection of data, right? And then focusing it on your intent. Because to be fair, we've been collecting data for 100 years. Clocking in at work, that was collecting data. When did you get here? When did you leave, right? Yet we were never scared of that. Why do you think the collection of data and channeling it into AI is, getting people's hair up all of a sudden?
Well, I think there's, firstly, I just want to say well done to Mark. Let's give Mark a big round of applause. Because I want to just say that I remember speaking to Mark 3 years ago at Gold's Gym, our favorite place, and he was like, I want to write this book, and it's going to be on the African identity and artificial intelligence. And, 3 years later, look, we're all here. It's pretty amazing. He's actually achieved his vision. So
And you did that thing that people who go to the gym do. You found a way to let us know you go to the gym.
we love the gym. Yeah. We're obsessed, a little bit obsessed. Yeah. But that's, if you think about all the data the gym's collected on Mark, I think Mark is the number one gym goer at Gold's Gym, guys. By far.
And how do they know that, Mick?
Because they're collecting the data.
Because he,
But I think that, just on a serious note, this idea of decision making and making easier decisions, we heard them talk a bit about it earlier. The types of data that we're collecting is really influencing the types of decisions we're making. And specifically around the metaverse part that we're very focused on, Mark's written some beautiful stuff about how the metaverse and how AI is actually going to accelerate the development and the creation of the metaverse, because AI is going to help with avatar creation. You can create these 3D models. You can take a picture of yourself and then be Anela in the metaverse as your digital twin. And then you'll start having Anelas running around. We might not even be here in the future. We might all be our ARs feeding back to you.
That's great. Now I'm so glad you touched on this. Because people say this, then the Anela will be there. Where's me?
You're going to be sipping a coffee and just getting feedback from your ARs and making sure everything runs well and your businesses are rolling.
So who's living life?
You.
How?
So the other part about AI in the metaverse is that it's going to help with interactive experiences. Being able to, if you think about AI, it creates a super intelligence. It gives us super intelligence. The combination of AI and the metaverse gives us super experience, because now you can experience these things and you can transport yourself into these different worlds and live all these different lives, as you choose. Or and AI will create the stories or the narratives or playing different types of games. Kids, Sam Altman from OpenAI says movies are going to become games.
You see, in the book, and I was actually looking for this quote, but I can't find it. But in the book, it says that 3 industries that have benefited from AI immediately was gaming. What was the other one? Mark, what is it? It's gaming, the digitization. Oh man, you see now. Now you're confusing me.
See, you got to read the book again.
I know. I'm going to. Okay, so here we go. A quote that stood out for me in the book, and I felt it's a great way for me to talk to you. If you want to create a different future, you have to start using data in a different way. Okay, so now look at the African context of that. How are we using data? I don't want to say in a wrong way, but how we could be amplifying it even more to make it make sense here on African soil.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think what Lilapa is doing is a great example of that, is because there isn't enough data around African languages and understanding African culture. So that there's so much opportunity in that space. But I'll leave that to you to answer.
Vukosi, actually come in here, because one of the main reasons that I don't even use Siri is that girl don't understand what I'm saying, and then you have to put on some sort of accent for her to understand you, Now, and then this is where you come in, because I feel like the AI conversation is going to leave a lot of people behind, purely because of how I speak, how I look, how I talk, the things that interest me. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, you're not.
Okay.
It's a big challenge. So we're here in this, in this space in Hyde Park in Johannesburg. You can, for almost everybody here, you can navigate the world in English and be okay. But then once really you move out of these big kind of metropolitan areas, we are no longer in that space. 50% of South Africa speaks isiZulu or isiXhosa as a first language. And unfortunately, right now, when you think about the tooling, the data that's available in local languages across these models, it's very, very, very little. And this then becomes a challenge, not just simply that Siri doesn't speak your language, but then it blocks off access, right? And that means that we keep on thinking, oh, this is empowering, but for most people, it just becomes another layer that stops you from actually then interacting. So what then needs to happen, in Mark's book, he talks about like, now looking at social good and applications, that Africa has to think about ways that they're going to move into this age, but in a way that both balances between understanding the risks. You can ask a lot of these large language models to do things for you in isiZulu, but don't be surprised if some of the results are very wacky. You might laugh at it, but think about it in use cases where it's critical. It could be like, a life and death situation, or a situation where somebody could be blocked off of things. There was a situation a number of years ago where they showed, for example, that border agents in the US were using Google Translate in the border when people were coming to ask for asylum. And Google, if you read on Google Translate, they say that do not use Google Translate as a replacement for proper translators. So now just imagine, with large language models, this is amplified by a long way, because now you open your WhatsApp and you've got a large language model that's available to you, and people are going to be using it for these spaces. So now we have to then make investments to really get to that part of covering more people, which means how do we get more data in languages? How do we build up the people who can build the tools? And then how do we make sure that they get into the spaces of the right hands? And that's where at Lelapa, at the company, we're working on then figuring out how do we build models in such a way that people can use them, right, in our languages, right? And not like, being unapologetic about it. It's not that you have to be and build another GPT, but there's specific things that are required. At the same time, as I said, like, wear multiple hats. At the university, we are trying to, we're trying to build up that pipeline, masters, PhD students, postdocs, who work in these spaces, who work on our languages, who really go and think about the frontiers of what this is going to mean for us and the continent.
Okay, so I found my notes there. AI's gains can be seen in three spheres immediately, right? Gaming, speech recognition, as well as autonomous vehicles, right? Now, great, we can see those gains there. I want to bring it back to the continent, and Kim, maybe you can take this question for me. What are the societal gains that we're going to see AI bringing to the African continent? Just on a pure, normal, not jobs, not everything, just like for society, what is it going to do? In terms of health, you can even touch on health. And tourism. You look like you're scared, like you were walking past and we pulled you on the stage. We were like, hey, fast, AI.
It's my... That's quite true.
Kim, that is Dr. Mark. He wrote a book. It looks like this.
Look, AI is really like the next industrial revolution, and it's really going to impact, and it is already impact society immensely by just being able to perform our very mundane tasks so that we can go out and just enjoy our lives in a much better way. And I just wanted to go back to Lalapa's point and just talk about the impact of language and what that has. And when you look at the African continent, we are known for our wildlife, and I haven't yet met one person who hasn't got the experience of an African safari on their bucket list. And at Wild Earth, which is the company I'm invested in, we are known as the world's largest safari vehicle because we digitally connect people to nature by filming from the African bush and broadcasting this to a global audience on a live basis. But we've been limited because we can only broadcast to an English-speaking countries. And now, with the advent of AI, we have been able, and we're starting to be able to naturalize our safari guides' voices into almost any language, enabling us, increasing our reach to non-English speaking countries, and enabling us to showcase our beautiful country and continent to a much larger audience that they were previously inaccessible, and instilling in them a desire to travel to our country. And if ever there's a case, like we know, the multiplier GDP effects, and here's a prime example where AI does increase jobs. So
sticking with wildlife, can you speak to AI around the big problem, the downer of it, poaching, right? Surely it means now that whole, and I think in the book Mark used the term outmanned, outgunned, right? AI is now going against that, where we can be in more places, survey more animals that are, susceptible to be poached. Can you touch on that for me?
Yeah, so that is definitely a problem, and it is an issue. So in terms of even where we film, we have to be very careful of showing we were prohibited at one stage from showing any rhino because you don't want people to be able to identify where they can be found. So those are on the negative side, but on the positive side, by collecting data, we're also able to improve, conservation and the poaching of that.
Right.
And I think a lot of that comes down to also human behavior. And it's very interesting because one of my colleagues, they put a lot of money into conservation to help with poaching. And actually, the biggest deterrent was the human element because you just pay someone, 1,000 rand and they'll show you where the rhino is. And the biggest help now is using technologies and actually training sniffer dogs. So, yeah.
All right.
AR drones, no?
And there we go, Mick. You should answer that for me.
Okay, Mick. Innovation is a word that's used a lot. It's a buzzword in most companies. So is disruption. So in the conversation, if I had to be on one side, innovation or disruption, do I have to pick a side? Can I be both?
You can, yeah. They're different things.
Okay.
Yeah. So innovation's
Unpack it.
more improving and incrementally, small incremental improvements, and disruption is like the next wave. So disrupting something completely changes the status quo. But if you look at, just to think about some of the society points that Kim was talking about, and what Mark writes about in the book about how AI is going to actually impact society and improve social impact, because we can solve the water problem in the world, and we can solve food security by using AI. By being able to, produce more produce and then distribute it. It's all going to be with the help of AI and blockchain technology. And Ray Kurzweil from the Singularity writes that there's going to be this coupling between our human intelligence and the machine intelligence, and that coupling is going to give us this massive thrust into how we can do things. So we're going to be coupling with the AI and be creating a much better society for all.
Okay, please get your questions ready because I'm going to get my microphone into the crowd just now. To wrap it up with this panel, Vukosi, I'm going to start with you. There's a quote I saw in the book, and I was like, actually, with all the research that I've done with you, and I like the way you said you wear two hats on this one, right? Listen to this. It says, technology really has the capability to make life a little bit nicer for everyone. But if you don't create it with that kind of intention, then the absolute opposite is true. Yes. Okay, you are nodding. You're saying yes. You are nodding as well. Unpack that for me, please.
We really all want to be part of what the revolution is. The challenge is there's many things we don't think about that we just take as being that it will be there. We can talk about language. We can talk about talking conservation. We have collaborators in Kenya at Dedan Kimathi University of Technology who we worked on in the past to do things like bird song identification, right? So what you can do is you can almost like put microphones in the forest and they just listen and they just count the birds that are are just singing. And this expands the way that you do conservation, because in the past, when you have to do an audit or they do these surveys for birds, it's literally somebody out in the forest for months, and maybe it happens once every 5 years. But now just imagine every phone in here, every once in a while being asked, can you spend 5 minutes wherever you are in the country, just press record and it goes somewhere, and now you've got the whole country's surveyed within a few minutes, right? Anything. But at the same time, to build these types of things, to build the LLMs that I was talking about, you need a lot of compute. I can tell you right now, the model that's on WhatsApp that you use, it was trained using 24,000 of these GPUs called H100s. Just say it's a ridiculous amount of money for each of these, 24,000 of them. All of them are privately owned by Meta, only can be used by Meta. And I would argue in the whole African continent, so we're going one company versus the continent, that across the whole African continent, we don't even have more than 1,000 of these GPUs. And that shows you that there's a huge imbalance here. That as these technologies are being built, we don't even have the capacity when it comes to compute to be able to do things for the local populations. And this is going to be a very major challenge in making sure that these systems actually represent all of us.
Okay. Oh, actually, Mick, you wanted to jump
Well,
in?
yeah, I think we're going to have to come up with a whole new computing platform. We're going to have to come up with a whole new way to compute to handle the scale that the AI is going to need. It's going to have to be brain scale computing that's coming. From the likes of quantum and thermodynamics is really going to be the next wave of computing to handle this AI that he's talking about.
I know exactly what he was talking about. Just this morning, I was telling my friends about it. What are the odds? No, I'm not asking a hard question. I want you to unpack the quote that I read for Vukosi. I'll reread it for you. Technology really has the capability to make life a little bit nicer for everyone. But if we don't create it with that kind of intention, then the absolute opposite of it is true. Right? Can you unpack that for me and how you understand how AI is going to come and, elevate the African continent?
Sure, that is a long one. That is a very, open question to answer. But I think in terms of it really does make a difference and impacts our lives every day. If you just think about the AI we have on our phones now, and it enables us, it just helps us so much in helping with tasks, and even just think about ChatGPT since it's come online, how much it has helped us in getting to answers quicker, to write stuff, getting to the right words. We know all the kids trying to do their homework with ChatGPT and schools banning them, and I, in a way,
Unpack
disagree with that.
I was about to say, unpack that. What do you think of schools banning ChatGPT?
So I don't think that they should ban ChatGPT because it's the future, and we are always going to be able to access it. And when we were at school, it was all about learning something off by heart and being able to recite it. So that's how we. And then it became being able to understand stuff. And now life at school is all about asking the right questions. We now have to ask the right questions.
And that's exactly what ChatGPT is that
Yes.
you asking it the right question with your knowledge,
Yes.
then you're going to get exactly what...
That's how you're going to get the right answer.
Yeah.
So, and that's, we've got to instill that in our kids now. That's what's important. That's the future. It's not about reciting information or trying to retain that. You can go access it anyway. It's about knowing the questions to ask in terms of how to access that.
All right, so this gentleman has had his hand up for quite a while.
Okay, thank you very much. I think just two questions for the earlier. For the earlier. Anela, your job is saved, JP just said, just two questions for the earlier panelists. I think for Pukeng, from a regulation point, it's nice regulations, and regulations can stifle also, creativity for SMEs, and with red tape in South Africa and everything, So I just want to check from a regulation point, are there anything, and she mentioned ethical, and I know with every technology that comes in, there's an ethical element, the first time I heard about drones was when the US killed Osama bin Laden, which is good, they can deliver groceries, but on the other side, the ethical element of that. So from a regulation point, how are they pinning around that? That's my first question. The second question is, I think, to Ashley. And we're saying artificial intelligence, African artificial intelligence. I'm not sure why Africa should always play second fiddle. Elon Musk, you know them, Mike Shuttleworth. Should our entrepreneurs move to the US, to be able to double up and scale and come up with something big, huge? So are we playing second fiddle every time? Is this bus, have we caught the bus, or have this bus left, the AI thing? So I want to maybe just, those pressing questions for me.
So both your questions are for the previous panelists.
Should-
Can you come up here? But Mick, I think you can...
Sure.
speak to that. Absolutely speak to that.
Yeah, so Ashley will be answering all your questions, and just on the regulation is on the top of everyone's lips. Elon Musk is posting about it daily. I'll leave it to Ashley.
Over to you, Ashley.
All right, I got the ending of the second question. So I don't. Can you maybe repeat it if that's possible.
You were saying that, do you not feel that Africans are playing second fiddle to
Sure, I got that. I got
Do you
that.
have to move overseas to make your mark?
Yeah.
Elon Musk, Mark Shuttleworth,
Mhm.
and, I will not answer.
So I think let's start first, right? There's some great entrepreneurs in South Africa, and I think we should, especially in the retail and FMCG space. I think South Africa has probably some of the best minds in that space. So it's naturally, and in banking. I mean, we have one of the most advanced banking systems in the world right now. So we're definitely ahead of the pack in a lot of things, and we don't play second fiddle. I think from a level of education, everything is online now, guys. There's literally every excuse to get educated now has been removed, right? Especially if you basically need internet access. So the idea of, and if you have any, I always say this, unless your kids are like Steve Jobs or something like that, then let them leave school. But on a normal day, keep them in school, keep them at university. There's a great discipline that's being taught. And it'll just make you a better whatever you become. With regards, I don't think you have to move overseas to get educated. I do think every business owner and company should start thinking of themselves like a global citizen, or at least a global company. And you need to do what's best for your business. And obviously bring it back home and learn from everywhere else and come back home. The bus has definitely not left. If you go through the book, there's use cases for any entrepreneur, there's use cases for any business owner, and there's use cases for all the students out there, and stuff for the government to be thinking about. So, I mean, maybe one bus passed, but you can create the next bus. So
You can be the one-man billion-dollar company using AI in South Africa.
Yeah, I just want to quickly talk about regulation. The thing is, with any technology, it's important for the general public to understand how it basically works. No, it's not about being the expert in it, but then how the basis actually works. We all will sit here and, and say, why am I being tracked in terms of advertising? I say something, I look at something, and already I get an ad. And you do have the right to really know how that had happened, because if you do not want it to happen, you should have the right to say, please do not track me, right? And there's a lot of automated decision making that's happening right now with AI that a lot of people don't even know that it's happening, and it affects your lives. So regulation is not simply just yes, if it's overregulated, that can be stifling. But on the other side, we want to make sure that everybody, once they've got this basic understanding, they will start asking the questions of so how does this process my data? What happened? What's my recourse if a decision is made that I think is wrong, right? And why is it that when I'm in South Africa and I try to access systems, it's very different than when I'm in the UK than in being in the US. Literally, your social media changes, there's different types of reporting, and then what tends to happen is that if you just allow some of these big companies just free reign, they will just say, for the countries that don't really have proper regulation, it's literally, we don't need to tell you anything. We just went through an election, and literally there's these big social media companies that said, we do not need to report to the South Africans what happened during the election online when it might have come to misinformation or disinformation. Just because they say, well, there's no regulation that then tells us that we are required to report in that country. Right, but it's a very different thing in the places that these companies are actually headquartered. They don't get the same type of treatment. They get a treatment that is much higher and much more responsible.
All right. One more question, and then we're going to bring the man of the moment up here as well. Hi, sir.
Thank you, Anele. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Doc, for a wonderful launch. I have a question for you, because the informal economy, the carcinomics, 150 billion rands worth a year in spazas. This is the trade. The trade that happens, and this is South Africa, right? We talk in Africa generally, but here I talk about South Africa. I talk about our people who live in a very different world in those spaces. They trust. They have an enormous amount of trust amongst one another. Bizarrely, in a country that is labelled globally, mind you, as a violent and crime-ridden place, in these economies, people count out hordes of cash, right? They trade in a day, they make 40s and 50s and 60s of thousands on a day. They literally count them out, and then that cash goes somewhere, and the people are entrusted with all of that, right? So, and they trust that process. They trust that unfolding. There are gogos and others that use ipini, whatever this thing is, that you give a card to somebody, they go to the shop, they buy and they trade and they do everything and they bring the goods back to you. Stokvels, exactly. So here's an environment that is like super strange for the average AI enthusiast. I'm in a project right now where we're working with technology to bring a lot of automation into these kinds of spaces. But the question I have is, how do you see, if at all, AI conversational applications living in that world where people trust on such a large scale, and now suddenly you're telling them, well, we can make your life a lot easier, you don't have to use cash, blah, 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 and they're saying, uh-oh. This is Muti magic you bring in here, pal. So that's the question I have to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So I think connected to the chapter on social good again, it's it's really looking at augmenting the human as opposed to replacing the processes in these spaces. There's a lot of it where I would even go to just thinking completely informal economy. I've been in situations working with municipal workers at some of the municipalities, and you see, again, we might have that view that people who work for government, they don't want to do any work, but the amount of passion that they have to really get the job done. So in one of these municipalities, we spent the day just following around these workers, and you see how they use chat systems to really go oh, here's a picture, something is broken, somebody has to get to this over a period. They're spending and they're communicating throughout the whole day. But then if you think about it from a formal basis now, instead of now this informal conversations that they're having in huge groups on there, then you think, oh, if only we could process whatever they were speaking about in whatever language, add it to their customer management system, so that for the municipal citizen, on the other side, it looks like it's everything is now being followed up on. They actually have identified things that would also bring trust to us, who are on the other side of the process, because there is sometimes that trust that is broken between us and government. But it's not that people don't care, and that's the thing. If you really want to do it, I don't know what municipal manager will allow you, spend a day. Spend a day and say, I want to, and you will see how this work is going. But then by adding that layer, it's not saying we're replacing whatever, it's not adding that layer that just says, oh, there's a ticket that's been opened, somebody's followed up on it, somebody's checking out on that. And these can expand to many, many areas. That's the thing that you see if you go to Kenya, right? There's a lot of these kind of the digital technologies building on top of the way that the complete informal systems work, but they know that there's a technological backend that allows them to really be part of the formal economy, even if they are informal. And these are things that are still opportunities that we can even learn from other countries, and then see how do we make sure when we bring them or we take parts of them for here, they actually make sense, right? They must be fit for purpose at the end of the day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fukosi. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much, Mick. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for our second panel. Quickly, Ashley said you wanted to add something around retail. So still with your question, Ash? Ash, clearly you're the one who knows everything here.
So I love your question on how could you help all these basically micro companies that are selling these spaza shops, the granny selling goods. A great application of AI, which we've done a lot in, is forecasting. Using AI to forecast. So if you take that one individual And if he knew one of the, on that 150 billion rand spend, you'll find there's a high amount of wastage or non-sold goods, because a lot of the goods are fresh, so they expire. If you had a more accurate forecast, it would be, they'll be able to buy an optimal basket of goods that will allow them to almost guarantee to get sold out, to get a better return on investment. So when they, and a better supply chain. So it's all about optimization. So that's probably, with the coupled with the language stuff, it becomes very powerful.
All right, thank you. Kyle, you can take this and then keep it in the audience for me. I'm going to use the one on stage. All right. Is this on? Is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Is it on? We all know why we're here. Dr. Mark Nasila happens to have written a book. We all gathered here to celebrate that and grill him on it. So what's going to happen is we're going to start the applause pretty slow, right? And it's going to build, and it's going to build, and it's going to build. When he feels like the applause is adequate enough to celebrate what I am holding in my hands, he's going to make his way up onto the stage. Please, can I tell you, his parents are here, so you better clap, eh? His mom could be looking at you right now. Right now. So let's start the clap. Let's go. One.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. You look amazing, and and thanks to the panelists.
They were fantastic,
it's been amazing.
right?
I feel like I don't even need to speak because you've done a marvelous job.
I actually think you're right, and this is why I'm gonna come off what the book has, and we're just gonna speak to the, to the man behind the book and the ideology and how you came about it. We're already told that you were at the gym, okay? After his 23rd burpee, he turned to Mick and said, Mick, I have an idea. So, and I mean, your publicist is here, your publisher is here. Tracy, thank you so much. This is wonderful. I want to give you a full name, Tracy McDonald Publishers. This is the reason we have this book. So, Tracy, please stand up. Stand up and give her a round of applause. But, there's a physical journey when you write a book. You have to, stay up, write, note everything down. I want to talk to the emotional journey. What happened? What did you eat the morning you decided you're going to write a book?
I was actually hungry, eh? But, Anele and in the audience, we know very well AI and generative AI being spoken a lot. But not just being spoken, they're actually changing everything. They're changing what it means, to live. They're changing industries. When you look at it closely, we are all responsible for the decisions we make that will lead to how the future will turn out. And what's so peculiar is that this technology is disrupting every single industry concurrently. And when I sat down and thought about this, I was like, but what happens to the African continent? I felt there was a need to write the book to drive decisions, to make it collective, to make sure that AI is a source of hope to solving some of the social challenges that we've not been able to solve before, to make sure we drive industrialization that will, create jobs, reduce poverty, to make sure we shift our focus to modernization. I mean, traditionally, when you look at technologies that have come before, we've always, played catch up. We've always been, the people who are consumers more than actually the discoverers. And this has meant that we're actually not spearheading innovations that allow us to bring out the potential for the African continent, while also working with the wider world. And then I asked myself, now AI is here, what will happen if we get it wrong? So I will spell it out very clearly. We're going to have so many social problems. We're going to have inefficiencies in the health sector. We're not going to drive industrialization. that means that we're not going to create jobs, because if you don't have the right industries, then you don't create the need for employment. Creation of employment is an outcome for creating the need, right? Then we're likely to lose sovereignty. Why is that important? If you look at the G8 summit and everything, the person who is very powerful on the table is the one who brings a lot. They define the policies, and they define how things work around. When you think about sovereignty, is that we need to create industries with unique products enabled by AI to offer to the world as well at the same time. And through that, we're going to position ourselves globally, be able to define policies. Or else we could be on the table accepting, okay, we're going to have these interest rates received based on the products you're receiving, but also think about just the ability to create a safer future for the next generation. And we have this opportunity, which I don't feel we're going to do it as well as the China or America who are far ahead, keeping in mind we've got very small economies. These guys have made mistakes, and we cannot afford those mistakes. So we need to craft strategies that are very deliberate in making sure AI plays a role in reimagining the future.
So you talk a lot to the strategies in this book, and I didn't read the entire book because when you gave it to me, you said go to the chapters that speak to you, right? Yes. And I did that, and I went to the chapters that I knew that it would speak to the panelists here. But what I found out about the book is that it is heavily researched. And as I was reading, I was like, okay, I get that he wrote it, but he can't be this smart by himself alone. I was like, "Hi, man." So, did you have a team, or really, you are?
So, and maybe the idea of a book came after I'd been writing a lot of opinion pieces, I think, for those of you who know. And I felt that to make AI a value discussion, you have to do a lot of insights and understanding on what you're going to use it for. And you'll see in the book that we touch on a lot of industries, and I apologize if I didn't touch on your industries, about 16, 17 major industries that I felt I needed to understand challenges to understand the role AI will play. I think it's important we also position the limitations of AI. AI is not going to solve everything. I've addressed that. We also need to humanize that process as much as possible and be responsible in understanding that it's about technology and the human being all the time. If we don't sell the value of technology, people will not be connected to it. So I spend a lot of time understanding the problem statement, which I feel we fail all the time. Sometimes I feel we come up to solutions to problems we don't know. And that has been a setback of us being behind.
So you wrote everything then?
Yes.
I really was impressed with you before, but now I'm really impressed. Like, you are something else. Okay.
But listen, I have to tell you, I had a very good editor who was very, very supportive.
Is the editor here?
No, she's not here, but she was very supportive. I missed a lot of deadlines.
I was about to say, did you become a liar? Because people who write books become liars. No, sorry, I didn't meet the deadline. My Wi-Fi was down. Like, really?
No, I missed a lot of deadlines. Life happens. But the most important thing was to make sure facts we communicate to people make sense, because that's what connects to them. That's what makes AI a reality, the everyday life. In every single chapter, if you look at it, there's no single chapter where I start talking about AI and technology. It's about, this is what tourism means to Africa. This is the actual challenges. Then, this is now where AI comes in. Now, that is a value conversation, yes.
And what you do well is you say, this is what this industry does for Africa. This is what it's currently doing for the US and China, yes. Right? So we can see the quick comparison, and then you delve into it. So I really like that. It's a really, really informative book. Enough of me. Where's the microphone? Hands up. 3 questions. The first signed book, sir, goes to you who asked the question. You're going to get yourself the signed copy. Then next book goes to you. Next book goes to you, provided we like your question. Logan, can you give the fellow with the members-only jacket?
Thanks to all the speakers, thanks to Mark, thanks to everyone. I think I've been thinking about this question, and I'm going to ask it in two different ways for a bit of time when I came here, but you covered it. So I suppose you present AI, you present it to businesses, and you present it to those who should invest in it. Do you have an illustration of the impact of non-investment of AI, either in a category or in a country or in a business environment? And I know that some of the earlier speakers spoke of productivity. Anele was making examples of what is the impact of society where AI has not worked, because you need to bring those proof cases to life and show people that AXA might have not invested in AI and therefore they don't know how many of their Boeings actually have petrol or not. That's the one. And then the second one is that relative to that, when you look at those categories, I've got a real life example of how technology has put me in danger. I've used Waze in the Eastern Cape, and then because the central environment in which there was a pin was lost, I went into a ditch and it was dark and it was raining. So I know that GPS systems have to be updated to a certain frequent point, or you could drive into a river. Relative to that example, do you have scenarios where AI non-usage and non-adaptive of it could actually be such extreme?
Yes. So let's start with the first question. Do we have evidence where AI has failed? Yes, there's lots of scenarios where AI has not worked. And if you look at the book, there's a section where we talk about mythologies or myths or misconceptions about AI, where we felt leaders have failed before by feeling that by just throwing money to the problem, we're going to see AI tomorrow, like you're going shopping. At the beginning of the book, we talk about the importance of driving literacy across organizations. The first thing that helps is understand what AI can do, but it also assists in understanding limitations of AI. If you want to use something, you must know how that thing works and what it can't do. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's a reason why we've gone through use cases, because use cases define opportunities for AI. It defines how you'll measure value. The second chapter is very big on strategy. So AI, the algorithm, is one piece of the block. Your second question talks about GPS. It's a very good question. Should we think about that as a limitation or a dependency of making sure that we have all the building blocks so that the GPS can work? So we have to think about the usage of the GPS, the depending on underlying technology that will make the GPS work. We have to think about data. We have to think about infrastructure, which is also a very great section. We have to think about change management and people, both from people who are supporting the technology, but also from the users. But more and more importantly, we have to make sure it works and measure that it works. So the opportunities we have define where it should be applied, but the strategy section, the section actually talks about the role of AI. And one thing I do very well is to make it a value conversation. Because the moment you talk AI, technology, you technologize everything and you shift it from value. So we talk about, for example, when you talk about automation, you must make sure you articulate the benefit from an efficiency perspective. And then productivity, you're actually helping people become more effective in the way they make decisions. Then we've talked about the section that looks at empowering people with expertise to do much better. Walter talked about radiologists. Radiologists are, the health sector has got scarcity of resources. So the value of AI is enabling them so that they can make much more decisions and quicker. And then we've talked about its role in innovation. And that's where you have creative minds coming in and partnering with actually AI to make sure that we're solving problems and making sure that we also draw a line on its humane implication where it's likely to be negative. It's a bit of a broad response, but it touches on your two questions that you've asked.
You have earned a book, sir. Logan, can we get the microphone? I'm going to ask us to pass it back for us, please. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mark. I think I should start and say I know Mark from the gym.
Okay, and your question is?
Mark, my question, I'm asking it from a social impact and education lens. I think we all know that AI and the impact it can have is unbelievable. But practically, who is going to fund AI and the impact it can have on an education lens in South Africa? I think that we all know the wealth disparity in terms of schooling, from the under-resourced communities to the resource communities, is very vast. But is it the government that's meant to fund the education and AI and the ability that it has to improve education in South Africa? Is it the social enterprises that are meant to have the impact? Is it the corporates? AI is amazing and it will have so much value, but who's expected to actually do the groundwork in educating people on how to use it in a schooling perspective?
Thanks. That's a very great question. Very good question. Now, traditionally, if you look at the construct of South Africa, we've got 3 or 4 major sectors. We've got the private sector, public sector, and the social sector. They all have their unique responsibilities. And one thing we learned through COVID, that we were faced with a challenge that required these sectors to work together, right? This is the same situation we are in. We've got AI, a technology that has social implications that are heavy. And leaders are not just worried about the value AI will bring or the opportunities, they're also worried about everything that could be wrong. So these sectors, all sectors have to work together to drive creating policies that drive the adoption of AI in a responsible and ethical way. And obviously that is through various channels, whether it's through the education system, policies, and that's why I was saying Europe, for example, has created laws that protect jobs. Like, I'll give you an example. They found out that we've got these small businesses, or small and medium businesses, that invested so much in AI recklessly, and the only way they could cover their costs is to actually fire people. So it's important that from a social perspective, you provide evidence that your investment in AI actually creates value than you needed for people and empowers people. So those are some of the things that needs to be thought about. We do not have them in that much detail today, but it goes beyond education. There is accountability as well, because accountability is easy, and if you ask everyone here, you've created AI, how many of you have created this value? Everyone will raise their hand up. But if you ask everyone, listen, you've created AI, whose AI went wrong and caused damage? No one will put this. So people must take accountability of their wrong and the right. And most importantly, why we're here, it's everyone's business. It's not the tech, it's everyone's business. We've put the last chapter, we've said, what are some of the questions leaders should ask their expert areas in the organization to make sure AI is being implemented ethically and socially. Because leaders are not technical, but they must be empowered. And this is everyone's business. You must ask the right questions. What, like you're asking today, what are the social implications? What are we missing out? What could go wrong? What are we not getting right that America is getting? Or we've seen this thing on Snapchat, Twitter. Are we also exposed to the same risk? It's important that these risks are outlined upfront, because the cost of risk in AI can be maybe like a nuclear bomb or even a disaster. Yeah.
All right. One more question. Wait. I'm not going to choose you guys. Pick amongst yourselves. Oh, yeah, let AI pick.
Thanks. Congrats, Mark. I don't know Mark from the gym. Clearly, I don't go to the gym. Mine is on the I think in business right now, there's two buzzwords. AI is one of them. The other one is ESG. And everybody's talking about ESG, and if you listen to the environmentalists, they'll say it doesn't matter everything we are doing if we are all going to burn in the next 30, 40 years. If we are not going to exist, then everything that we are talking about is not important. So my question to you is whether or not climate is addressed in your book. And from an African context, I think the data shows that in Africa we are going to be affected most, despite the activities in the West being mostly damaging towards the environment. From sustainable development goals perspective, we are the most vulnerable. How is AI going to help in as far as that's concerned? Thanks.
Thanks. Actually, I've got a great chapter. I address it under climate change. And I talk about it as the ultimate risk we're facing. And I'll tell you why. We've already seen a lot of disasters which scientists have directly linked to climate change. The disasters we're facing are not as big as the ones we're seeing in America, the fires or the floods. But you can see that they're coming. And the reason for that is that we're the biggest contributors to that. The reason we're going to be affected is not because of the impact of the disasters, but it's because we're not resourced like those other nations to deal with the nature of the disasters. So the first section of that chapter talks about the global impact of natural disasters. The second one talks about the natural disasters we've seen in Africa along, up to Mozambique. Some of Durban 2-3 years ago, we had floods exactly, and they were linked to climate change. Well, so I'm not a climatologist, but the role of AI is critical. Number one, we've talked about the ability to be proactive, right? That's the number one thing. In anticipating these disasters, we can help create a safety net for those that are likely to be affected. We also talk about changing behaviors, especially on the reliance of different forms of energy that are the biggest contributor to damaging the ozone, right? Then we talk about planning and ability to deal with natural disasters when it happens. And all this is aimed at making sure we do more with less resources, because AI is helping us become efficient. We can plan better. We can work with our budgets, because AI is driving us being much more smarter. So the chapter is very, very comprehensive. I give a lot of examples of how other nations did it, especially with similar problem statements. And I think it's an area which I feel a lot of students, PhD students, must actually do more research in to make sure that when we get to that stage where we need AI to help manage climate risks, we have actually proper solutions, because it's a very young area, but it's the ultimate big data problem that we need to think about. Yeah. I saw Noli wanted to, yeah, she wanted to ask a question. Yeah.
Please, can you get it there with the hat? Thank you.
She's this.
And then last one there. Okay, great.
Okay, it was planted apparently.
Please stand for me.
Please stand.
Yes, sir.
Am I that sure? Okay.
Not when you're standing on your wallet.
Wallace, not that big. Thanks so much. My question is really about creativity, right? So a lot of the questions were posed today were around that intangible thing that machines can't do that humans can, right? So when you look at GPT, generative pre-trained transformers, it's a statistical inference machine. We know that, right?
Yes.
Michio Kaku says exactly the same thing. He says today AIs are nothing but glorified tape recorders. Where do we find the role of creativity when essentially AI is giving you the most likely truth, not necessarily the truth? It's the mean of a Gaussian distribution. How do we find creativity at the ends of that spectrum?
So it's a great question, and maybe it's linked to the topical discussion that's been happening about artificial general intelligence. We must be very, very clear on when we start worrying about technology executing human intelligence fully over the next 2 years. And I think that's the gist of your question. What makes us human beings unique in terms of intelligence? We can reason. We can understand the physical world in much more complexity, and we can deal with it as it happens. We can plan, and we can reason within the planning. When ChatGPT or Gemini gives you a response, it doesn't understand what it's doing. I want to quote the chief of AI from Meta, who said, "These models are dumber than a rat or a cockroach. They don't know what's happening," right? What we're seeing is that they are providing a representation of the world they were trained. And that's why we're seeing there's a big challenge in a lot of organizations realizing the promise of ChatGPT. If you ask by show of hand, how many people have implemented large language models and they are working as though they promise? Very small percentage, because they learned that this excitement we've seen in the words being constructed and seeing paragraphs, it's far from reality. To make sure AI works, you have to go beyond just text. You have to think of processes. You've talked about referencing distributions. It will do that because there was data that appeared like that on the web. And you need human beings to induce reasoning so that it can make sense. We're still going to need people to make sure. Is it going to happen? I do think it's going to happen. That is the negative news. But one attribute of us human beings, I think someone asked me, a gentleman asked me, so if we were to think 30 years ago, who are we in terms of intelligence? And who are we today? In the present construct, technology can execute some tracks faster, disjointedly, faster, can create a curriculum or a CV very quickly, administrative things. But those are not going to be so useful until they make sense of how the world works. We as human beings have become more intelligent over time. In fact, there's more forms of intelligence coming. So in 10 years, we're going to be very different people. And the machines of today will be catching up because they will have to depend on learning on our intelligence over time. And that is the limitations technology have today. Again, I need to stress this. These machines will improve. I saw the other day two large language models enabled capabilities speaking to each other, but they could only speak to each other based on what they've been taught to do. But we are responsible for our evolution now. We need to let go and create think about who we're going to be in the near future. Yeah. Yeah.
Do I need to stand up?
I'd like for you to. You're wearing such a pretty skirt.
Thank you. Evening, everybody. My name is Nali Mautu. Mark, thank you for a phenomenal book. I've had the pleasure of reading it for the past 2 weeks. But with that being said, I wanted to ask you, based on your own opinion, because I did put this on Meta AI to see its response with regards to your contribution to AI, particularly for this particular book. I wanted to ask, we understand where we sit, where the global north is, and its contribution to the advancement of AI, and the global south has been lagging behind. I mean, there is a global south project that Vukosi, Mauritania is also part of, and other representatives in Kenya and the rest of Africa trying to actually contribute with regards to the information that actually exists on the internet and other open source platforms. But with that being said, how do you feel your book will actually be assisting us as South Africa and Africa in actually contributing and swinging that pendulum from a global south perspective?
Thank you. So when I thought about this book, I thought more about the future that is already here. I thought about other technologies and how it's turned out for us. We've always played catch up. Today, the projections of the AI value done by McKinsey, PwC, estimate about $16 trillion of value will be created. In other words, if the whole world is strategically correct, you use AI properly, there'll be so much efficiencies to be created. There will be so much productivity worth 16 trillion. So this is the sad part. China and America are projected to take over 70% of this value. Right? This is even the more sad part. The whole of Africa, based on what's happening, it's 1.2 trillion. So the implication for this is that the way we go around it will determine how things will turn out. If we get it wrong, as I say, number one thing is that we're not going to solve problems, because the role of AI today is to solve problems we couldn't solve before. We're going to spend a big part of our economies fixing problems other than innovating. We're going to lose talent. Brain drain is one of the biggest risks. And other risks, sovereignty, we've mentioned, the ability to create jobs. The book is aimed at us putting together strategies that are relevant in taking us from where we are to realizing our potential. We've got so much potential across all industries. We're a very diverse nation, diverse continent. It's about getting strategies right. We all know getting right is difficult. Let me tell you how difficult it is. Because stock is cheap. Across the world, only 9% of automobile industries have adopted AI successfully. 9%. The health sector, 3%. And we're talking about health sector across the world. If you take out the big numbers, success numbers in America and in China, who are very advanced, our numbers are decimals. The financial sector, 1%. So it's difficult. So it's already difficult to win. You have to set yourself up. And the book is about empowering everyone so that we can get it right. We don't have big economies. If you look at China, America, Ireland, they made a lot of mistakes at the beginning of their journey. Some of their mistakes have been quantified to be economies of countries in Africa. We don't have those funds to be playing around and getting wrong and discovering. We don't have that. But also the implication. What happens, because it's very easy to think about the right. What happens when we're going to fall back? As I said, we're going to see migrations happen. We're going to see almost us not even having a say on the table. You might be worried that the decision to host an Olympics will be based on AI. That's how the world works. When COVID came, I don't know if you guys read the stories, the manufacturers of vaccines were negotiating on sovereignty. We know there's certain countries that were offered, you either give us your coastline or you're not going to get the vaccine. So if we're in a situation where we can't solve our problems with AI, every time there's something small, we take a phone call, we're totally not independent. We're going to offer the coastline. That is the implication. We're going to have a lot of people doing marketing jobs, sales jobs, and I think you've seen already in the market that the person who comes up with a product determines the rules, determines who they employ. They'll even bring their workforce. And that's something we have to take control of. So leaders must know that they are responsible for the decisions they make today. And I think this book is well placed to empower leaders to make decisions and everyone to ask questions so that we can collectively create a better future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mark Nasila. Where is the professional photographer? I need you, I'd like for you to stand here, Mark, and then he must stand up here, and then take like an aerial shot of you with your people behind you.
Thank you.
Where is he? There you go. I'm gonna step off so that you can do it. Okay, thank you so much, Dal. I'd like for you to hold your book, if you don't mind. There we go. And then move back just a little bit for me. Everybody look interested, like you rent a crowd. Okay.
All right, you ready?
Ready?
3, 2,
1. Dr. Mark Nasila!
Just one last thing. I just want to take this opportunity. I thought it will be unjust for me to not thank all of you for being here today. This has been a journey. I've got my colleagues here from FNB, my friends. We work together, and some of the lessons we share here. I want to thank everyone who's committed. My parents are here, my brother.
Please can they stand? Where are they? Where's your family? Stand.
It's
Are they? Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. The Singularity Africa team. For those of you who don't know, we were streaming this live on LinkedIn. Some people joined on the metaverse, the experience. So thank you so much, Mick. Thank you, Walter, Avalon, for making sure, and then Tracy, thank you so much. And I apologize all the deadlines I missed. And to the exclusive books team, thank you again for everything, the technology, and if I've forgotten anyone, guys, I see my Golds family is here. And last but not least, Anele, my friend Baza, when we were brainstorming about how we're going to go about this event, So thank you so much. Your energy was amazing today. Everyone is like, And this is not a launch of a book. This is about streamlining this conversation so that we can collectively take responsibility of how things will turn out. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
let's socialize a bit.
All right. I know you understand. LinkedIn people, the winners on LinkedIn, Dr. Brenda, Didi Kovane, as well as Sylvester Makanya, you guys have won yourself signed copies. Everybody else, please buy the book and get it signed. He's going to be here for, right? You're going to sign. Do you have a good pen on you?
I've got a pen.
Okay, he's got a pen. Thank you so much. My name is Anel Mdoda. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you this evening.
Thank you so much.